Well, the debates are just a couple weeks away, and there's some pretty compelling evidence that in the meantime, Joe Biden is using teleprompters to answer questions during interviews. But before Steve Green, Scott Ott, and I get into that, we're going to stop for a moment so that you can hit that subscribe button and also ring the bell. If you think, no, I don't want to stop the content just for a moment, it's too much, I can't bear to leave just for a second, we're going to be silent for 2 seconds anyway, give you plenty of time to do that. So just go ahead and click those buttons. Okay, hey, you're back. So, guys, there have been a number of questions put to Joe Biden, like what is your favorite color, and what is it about Donald Trump that you find makes you most angry? And on virtually all of these answers, Joe Biden can be seen either looking off to the side consistently, looking down consistently. He did an interview where they showed he brought out a picture of his family, and you could see in the reflection that there's apparently a teleprompter there with dialogue. And so on and so on and so on. So my actual question, it comes down to this. We found out from our backstage show that you only get to see if you're a member, that we have a pretty big spectrum of opinions on Joe Biden here, ranging from he's not going to be as awful as you think to no, he's really losing his mind to he can't function. He can't wash himself. So guys, here's my contention. We saw the champion of democracy and following the rules, Nancy Pelosi, say just a short time ago that she doesn't think that Joe Biden should debate Donald Trump. And I especially like the way she put it. She said, "Don't tell Joe Biden this, but I don't think you should debate him, because Joe's just raring. He's just raring for that debate." I maintain that Joe Biden accepting the debate challenge was something to make it look like Joe Biden wanted to have these debates, and I am absolutely sticking to my guns on this. I think something's going to happen at the last minute that's going to prevent Joe from debating Donald Trump. And if that doesn't happen, I'm not betting the farm on that, but if that doesn't happen, I think Trump's going to destroy him. Steve, you are the middle guy in the three monkeys. I'm the guy who says I think he can't finish sentences. You're the guy who says no, he can finish sentences, but Donald Trump's going to destroy him. Scott thinks he's going to do better than we expect or than we're counting on. What do you think? Do you think that these debates are going to go forward? And do you think that Joe Biden can handle somebody needling him? Forget about asking tough questions. Just somebody following up on some of the things he said?
I think the debates go forward. I think. That said, Joe Biden can answer a question depending on what the question is. Ann Althouse, whose name I forgot backstage, had a great piece earlier this week saying that, Biden has trouble forming coherent sentences, except when he's being evasive. He's really good at being evasive. He's really good at the dodge. And what he does is he falls back on one of his boilerplate things that he's been using ever since the 2012 Obama re-election campaign. When Barack and I came into office in 2009, we inherited the worst economy since the Great Depression. And he goes on his spiel. And he's got a bunch of these programmed into his head from before his dementia really started to kick in. And he's pretty good at reciting them. It's when you ask him, the most controversial question he's been given by the press corps so far has been, Joe, which do you think is more adorable, puppies or kittens? And, that could cause a real schism among...
bring it closer. I don't know. Bring it closer.
That could cause a real schism among certain voters. So I guess in a way that's sort of controversial, because you got your dog people and you got your cat people, and never the twain shall meet. Needling, though, is where he falls apart. We've seen this time and time again. There's a famous video from 1987, and this is the one that helped drive him out of that race, and the news, back when the media reported much more fairly than they do now, where a reporter questioned something about him, and Joe starts going off about how his IQ is much higher than this guy's, and how he went to law school on a full scholarship, and he was the only guy in his law school to do this and that thing. And it turns out all of it was crap. Not a word of it was true, except for the part that he went to law school. It's just, but he was sharp. He could actually come up with this stuff on the fly. Now, when he's confronted by anything that crosses him, he goes off on tangents like lying dog-faced pony soldiers. I have actually transcribed some of his babble for my readers over at vodkaputted.com and at PJ Media, and it is painful, but actually very funny to read. Well, if you're mean like I am anyway, and apparently a lot of my readers too. When he's needled now, he gets angry, and when he's angry, he kind of loses the thread. And that's what it's going to be up to Trump to do in these debates, is to needle him until some of this garbage comes out. And I have a dream. It isn't anything like Martin Luther King's dream, because his was noble and inspiring, and mine is, well, it's kind of petty and mean, but I'm going to share my dream with you anyway. And my dream is that on one of these debates, Trump finally hits Joe's kind of mental off switch just right. Biden goes off on one of his incoherent rants, and Trump looks at Biden, looks at the camera, and says, "Can anybody tell me what the hell this guy just said? Because I have no idea." And that right there is a campaign ender for Team Biden.
Scott, you think he's going to do better than you think the debates are going to happen, and you think he'll probably do better than what I think he's going to do. You think the chance of an actual complete brain freeze meltdown is low, and you may be right. You're not, but you may. So, what do you really honestly? How do you see Joe Biden responding, not just to pointed questions from the moderator, as I'm sure there'll be very pointy coming from CNN moderators, but how do you think he'll deal with the attacks from Trump and Trump's response? And actually, this is really, I guess, where I'm going. Do you think that the danger will not be so much that Joe Biden can't remember information so much as Joe Biden might get out of control angry? He certainly seems to have had, over the last, during the year of the primaries, an ability to just immediately go to insult people who question him, people on his own team. And, this whole dog-faced pony soldier thing, and hey, come on, fat, you want to do some push-ups? Do you think that's gonna emerge? Do you think he's gonna challenge Donald Trump to a push-up contest?
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, I think that the moderator is going to do what moderators have done in previous debates, which is protect their guy. And so they will rescue him if he starts straying. That said, I'm not saying that I think he's going to turn in a fabulous performance or that it will ice his victory by the way he crushes Donald Trump in the debates. I think he's going to come across as merely competent. In other words, I don't think he's going to look like he has dementia. And when he does that, a lot of people who have been betting on this idea that he's losing his marbles are going to have to reassess or come up with some explanation for why it is that he was able to stand toe-to-toe with Donald Trump and not completely collapse. However, Donald Trump's skill is chaos. And it is really hard to do debate prep for chaos. And I'm sure that the people who are playing opposite of Biden in the debate prep sessions are going to watch hours and hours of video and see the way Donald Trump talks. But nobody talks the way Donald Trump talks, and they're going to be prepping for a traditional kind of debate where somebody criticizes somebody's policies. But the reality is, as crazy as some of the things that Joe Biden says are, Donald Trump says some crazy stuff too. And I don't mean necessarily that it's not true things. He just speaks in a way that no one else speaks. And that is hard to prep for. Because you're thinking in your head, I've got my talking point is ready. Here he goes, he's going after my energy policy, and then I'm going to hit him with this. And then Trump will just say something that's so completely out of left field that you'll have no idea how to respond. And even if you give what sounds like a reasonable response in the context of that Trump just established for you, it'll sound like a bad reaction. I don't think he's going to lose his cool either. I mean, I think he will, in a very disciplined way, he will muster anger when he thinks it should seem appropriate. I think ultimately Trump comes out of this looking like the winner. I think I've been saying for a long time, I think Trump is the winner, not just of the debates, but I think he's the winner of the election. But I just don't think Biden's going to be that bad. And I think he does show up and he turns in a competent performance. And then the media erupts in adulation because he doesn't have dementia. And they can now say, look, for 2 hours, he did not drool on himself.
My favorite Star Trek episodes is called Mirror, Mirror, where there's an alternate universe, and one of them is savage and one of them is civilized, and Kirk goes to the savage universe, and savage Kirk comes to the civilized universe, and savage Kirk is locked up, and good Kirk, real Kirk, is able to convince them that he's one of them. And when he was questioned about this, he said, or Spock said, a civilized man can act like a savage, but a savage can't act like a civilized man. It's not a two-way street. Doesn't go that way. You can act confused, you can seem confused, but having dealt with this in my own life about as close as it gets, Alzheimer's and dementia is not something that you can fake your way around. It's just not. When I see Joe Biden taking cream puff questions and having to look at notes in order to answer them, when I see him supposedly responding to simple, absolute softball questions by saying things like, bring it closer, meaning the teleprompter and things like that, that's not something that he can suddenly put away for an hour or two during a debate. It's just not. The other thing I think that's really going to tell is that two things that I saw just today. One of them is in the last interview that Joe Biden did. He's constantly looking off to the right of the screen he's reading notes. Sometimes you can hear the papers rustling on his desk, but he's looking off to the right and reading notes. And then I saw Donald Trump at the latest rally he's holding, and he basically stands in front of everybody who's supporting him and said, did you see Joe Biden's last interview? Did you see him? Did you see him look to the right? You see him looking to the right? He's reading his notes. He's checking his notes. Now, gentleman Jim Romney would never have stooped low enough to have actually called Biden out on the fact that he's reading notes, but Donald Trump isn't gentleman Jim Romney, and that's why he's president. Donald Trump is going to be looking for that, and he's going to put a hole in it. And more importantly than this, I saw Biden interviewed by somebody who was asking something about does Trump's making comments about your mental capacity or so on. That was the question. And Biden said, oh, the slow Joe thing. It's too ridiculous to even countenance. But the interviewer didn't say slow Joe. Trump said slow Joe. The fact that Biden is reacting to a label that Trump has put on him is, to me, an indication that Trump already owns this guy mentally. He's inside his OODA loop. He's inside his decision curve. It's this. I'm going to fall back on, as far as this prediction about the debates goes. I know everybody says, no, he couldn't possibly drop out. It would look worse. I'm going to fall back on Whittle's law. And Whittle's law is, anytime you see something where the optics are so bad you cannot imagine why it could possibly happen, the answer is because the other option's optics would have been even worse. So I predict, he said, yeah, I can't wait to debate Donald Trump. I think something's going to happen at the last minute. He's not going to be able to do it. But if he does actually get into a debate with Donald Trump, I really think it's going to be a bloodbath. That's my position. That's my marker. I'm putting it on the table. We'll see when the game is over, but I don't see any way he's going to survive 3 debates. Hillary Clinton could at least respond in the same way that a snake hisses and strikes back at something, but we're not seeing that here. That'll do it for this edition of Right Angle. By the way, if Biden were to come with this, when I entered when Obama and I took office, it was the worst economy we'd had since the Great Depression. And I would turn to him and say, and you managed to continue to keep it in that form for 8 years, Joe. What do you do with something like that? This show is made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com. Click the subscribe button. If you don't want to become a member, okay, fair enough. But if you just hit the subscribe button and the bell, you'll get to watch all of these shows, and surely we will wear you down over time. For Steve and Scott, I'm Bill Whittle. We'll see you next week right here on Right Angle.